Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison.
Hi, this is William Shatner.
It is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
Oh, yeah, what's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take, starting off your week on a Monday. Glad you can join us, Sharp and Shapiro. Oh, boy, do we have a lot to get to today. Big show lined up for you. Tons of news in the sports world, the political world, you name it. As I mentioned, I didn't mention it because it happened while we were doing our show. I don't even recall. Did I mention the tweet that Donald Trump made about Seth Moulton? He basically went after Seth, called him a nobody, for lack of a better term. Seth Moulton announced he will not be. He's dropping out of the presidential race. He'll be joining us in hour number 2 to talk about those comments. People on the right and the left criticizing the president for his remarks about Seth Moulton. So that'll be coming up in hour number 2. Also, really looking forward to this. She is a controversial figure, and with everything that is going on with the Clark County School District, we have Daniel Ford, CCSD trustee, who will be joining us, along with John Brookhagen, a former CCSD teacher, to talk about the issues facing the Clark County School District. Now, it's not one or two issues. It is a plethora of issues. So we will get to that coming up as well in hour number 2. We usually like to start this show off with the biggest story, certainly on Monday, the biggest story of the weekend. And we are starting this off with what I consider not just a story that is a sports story, but a story that transcends into other, news, politics, you name it, whatever. It's a huge story, not just because an NFL quarterback is retiring, but the way he's retiring and the backlash and criticism he's getting from the media and from fans, which I consider to be utterly ridiculous. Of course, if you've been living under a rock and you're unaware, 7-year NFL quarterback Andrew Luck played for the Colts. Best player coming out of college. He's a good guy. He's suffered with injuries throughout his career. Announced that he is going to be retiring from the NFL. This comes days after he was booed off the field in a preseason game by the Indianapolis Colt fans. As I said, he's been plagued with injury. There are people in the media that have said some pretty outrageous, outlandish, ridiculous things. I'll get to that in a second. But I want you to hear from Andrew Luck himself. For those of you out there that have opinions and saying, oh, he's not tough, he's a wussy, he's not fighting through injuries, I want you to hear this cut. This is from Andrew Luck yesterday doing a press conference announcing that he is retiring from football.
For the last 4 years or so, I've been in this cycle of injury, pain, rehab, injury, pain, rehab, and it's been unceasing and unrelenting, both in season, both in and off season, and I felt stuck in it, and the only way I see out is to no longer play football. I've been stuck in this process. I haven't been able to live the life I want to live.
Yeah, it makes complete sense to me. I don't think this was an issue about money or, listen, the guy comes from a very wealthy family. I think he's being honest. I know he's being honest. He doesn't have the heart that he can do moving forward. He's played through a lot of pain. So there's been a lot of backlash, which I think is unfair. And a guy that I don't think I've ever mentioned him on this show. I just don't like him. I don't think he's a very good radio host. His name is Doug Gottlieb. He's a former college basketball player turned sportscaster, sports talk show for Fox Sports. I've always called him a one-trick pony. What I mean by that is he knows his college basketball. He's a basketball guy, but when he starts talking about other sports, I don't think he has any idea what he is talking about. And it's either one of two things, or either he said some things to just be outlandish, or he said some things because he's ignorant. Let me explain. So he goes on social media yesterday. Again, this is a national sports talk show host. And he says, retiring because of rehabbing is too hard is the most millennial thing ever. You want to talk about a ridiculous tweet. Troy Aikman, Hall of Fame quarterback, said, that's total BS, Doug. What qualifies you to decide how someone should live their life? So you're now the authority on what motivates Andrew Luck? And if his decisions don't fit into what you think is best for him, then you rip him? Guess that keeps you employed at FS1. Nice. I could not agree with Troy Aikman more. It is one thing if you're trying to be opinionated and saying something that's a little bit outlandish. It's another thing if you're just a moron. Okay, Andrew Luck is a good guy. He's suffered through a bunch of injuries. Who are we to say as a society? Who are we to say how you are going to live your life moving forward as a professional athlete or not? Who are we to criticize? It'd be one thing if he broke his finger, okay, and he said, yeah, I don't want to play through that. It'd be one thing if he was a 23-year-old kid who just signed a huge contract and he broke his leg and he said, that's it, I don't want to play football anymore. That would be different. This guy played in the league for 7 years. He's been banged up. He's been hurt. It is a joke. And by the way, Andrew Luck has done all the right things. He's stayed out of trouble, both college and the NFL. One of the smartest quarterbacks I think we've seen in this era, JD. Is that fair to say? This guy's a smart guy.
Well, he does have an architectural degree from Stanford. He got a 37 on his Wonderlic. He was probably the best quarterback prospect to come out since John Elway. Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. He suffered 7 or 8 really, really interesting injuries. One was a lacerated spleen. One was a neck injury. One was a shoulder. And you're right, he doesn't need the money. His degree alone, for considering that it's Stanford, it's probably worth $1 million or $1.5 million to some business nationally. His father is Oliver Luck, who's extremely wealthy. Football isn't this guy's life, and it doesn't have to be. And he's having a kid. He just announced on June 14th this year that he's having a kid this year. And It sounds like he might not be able to actually carry his kid and walk around with this kid. He wants to be able to be a father.
Yeah.
And with as injured as he is, and how strong and how big these NFL players are getting, and the CTE scare that's going on, I don't necessarily blame him for doing what he did. Now, is it a huge loss for the NFL? This guy had a giant arm. He ran a 4.6 40 at the combine at 6'4", 240 pounds. Mm-hmm. He was such a fun player to watch play the game.
And a good guy.
And he was a very good guy.
Yeah.
But Gottlieb, and this is what's happening in these days, people just say over-the-top things to grab national attention. But you're right, Doug Gottlieb knows nothing about football. He is all basketball. He needs to stick to basketball.
But even if you, and I agree, even if you don't know anything, Jason, even if you don't know anything about football, what he said is wrong and utterly ridiculous. I want to get your reaction to this, okay? So Doug Gottlieb is now defending himself, right? You knew this was going to happen.
He doubled down.
Yeah. So here is Doug Gottlieb on Fox Sports. He does this show, and he's defending and doubling down on his comments.
It's the idea of putting his mindset and lumping it in with a millennial mindset. And if you think that's being critical of it, yeah, I guess partially, but not personally critical in terms of I think he's a bad person or whatever. But he is the guy right now who's kind of got his flag in the ground for hey man, if it's not fun, if it's really hard, move on to something else. And it's championed by people because that is our new kind of that's many people's mindset nowadays.
Okay. So he's insulting a generation, literally.
Yeah, he's an idiot. Doug Gottlieb is Doug Gottlieb. You are a complete idiot. You have no business being on the radio. I don't like what you do anyway. There's plenty of other hosts out there that you can listen to. I wouldn't listen to Doug Gottlieb. Number one. Number two. Who is he to say you're taking the easy way out? Like you just mentioned, JD, he's having a kid. He's suffered through horrendous injuries. If anything, I give him credit for saying, look, I'm hurting my team if I stick around. This guy has a massive contract.
He's not hurting his team. I mean, I promise you, this hurt his team more but he's hurting himself. He's hurting himself. Mm-hmm. And one thing this does, and people don't realize this, but Andrew Luck was sacked, and he was hit the most times ever 3 years ago from any quarterback in history.
Right.
Their O-line was so bad for 3 or 4 years. Now their O-line is great. They've got Quentin Nelson, Anthony Costanzo, Ryan Kelly. They've got a bunch of first-round picks on that offensive line. And they've got a lot of talent at wide receiver, too. Now, what might happen here is Colin Kaepernick, he might get picked up by the Indianapolis Colts.
I hope not.
It could absolutely happen under these circumstances.
I hope not.
They have Jacoby Brissett and a 7th-round pick named Chad Kelly out of Mississippi from 2 years ago who's been in trouble with the law a couple of times. I would not be shocked at all if Jim Irsay picks up Colin Kaepernick. And you know what else? Jim Irsay, he is not asking Andrew Luck back for the $24 million that he can ask him back for.
So, in layman's terms, what does this mean? Right? What does it mean for the Colts? It's a big loss for the Colts. But in the broader spectrum, to the non-sports fan that is listening right now, what does this mean? It means a player who has been good for the NFL, who is a good person, has struggled throughout his NFL career with injuries. He said it himself, quote, I haven't been able to live the life I want to live. How the F can you criticize somebody for that? The man wants to live his life without pain. We've seen what happened to happens to some of these NFL players with the brain trauma, the brain injuries, everything else that goes along with it. And this idiot Doug Gottlieb, who is a coward as far as I'm concerned, it's one thing if you sit in a seat and do a radio show and be opinionated. It's another thing when you go after NFL players, and make no mistake about it, that is exactly what he is doing. For an NFL player who played 7 years in the league, who's done all the right things, making a decision for his family and so he could live his life. Doug Gottlieb, you are a shameful human being as far as I'm concerned. Fox Sports should fire your ass. That's how I feel about this situation. Fire this guy because he is a moron. It is one thing to be opinionated. It's okay to disagree with people. People disagree with us all the time. That's fine. I am not going to criticize an NFL player who just wants to live his life pain-free. And for these morons in Indianapolis, these fans that were booing him off the field in that last preseason game, shame on you. You don't deserve a guy like that. You don't deserve a guy like Andrew Luck. Let's see what's going to happen this year. Then you're going to really start booing when your team wins 2 games. Then you're really going to start booing. And let me tell you something, JD, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, when, they can't win and it's consistent over the next several years, they're going to look back at this moment when they booed Andrew Luck. And if anyone has a brain, they're going to say to themselves, wow, we were wrong. We didn't really appreciate Andrew Luck. They don't deserve the guy.
I'll tell you this. If they do lose 5 or 6 games this year, or if they do go 2-14 this year, fine. But next year, if they go 2-14 or 1-15 or 3-13, they're going to get the number 1 pick in the draft, who's going to be Trevor Lawrence from Clemson. And he's actually the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. So there is a chance that in the last 30 years, they would have drafted Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and Trevor Lawrence. So they're not going to lose for 5 or 6 years, I promise you that.
Okay, that's fine. But you understand the point I'm trying to make.
I get what you're saying. Karma. You're saying karma.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous. Well, we'll take a few quick calls on this one. GCI Guys hotline right now is open. What do you think about this? It's not even necessarily your sports opinion. I want to get your opinion on general. Who are we as members of the media and fans? Do you think it's fair to criticize a player like Andrew Luck, saying that he is retiring yesterday because he wants to be able to live a normal life? Is it fair for media to attack him? Is it fair for fans to attack him, a professional athlete in general terms? Do you think that is okay? I don't care if you're a sports fan or not. I don't care if you never watch the NFL. I want your opinion. Is it fair for a member of the media to do that? The number is 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you do want to be a part of the conversation. Now is the time to do it. That number, 702-257-5396. What do you think about this? Do you think Doug Gottlieb is in the wrong? Do you think, hey, maybe you think Andrew Luck is in the wrong? I don't know. I certainly don't feel that way. I think the man has a right to live his life any way he wants to, and he deserves to live a healthy life. As JD just said, he's having a kid. He wants to be able to hold that kid the rest of his life. Who knows what could happen if he gets back out there on the field? I don't blame him one iota, and it is the responsibility of fans and members of the media to show this man a little bit of respect. I get it. He didn't win a lot of big games in the playoffs. I get that. He didn't get Indianapolis over the hump. He was still a hell of a quarterback. He won a lot of games over there, and he broke a lot of records. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396. 257-5396, the number to call. Let's start off with Carl. Carl, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, Brian?
Good.
I've talked to you before. I was going to talk. Johnny told me not to about Trump's infantile rant today, but
yeah, we're not doing
Trump.
Trump.
Luck. I know this is about luck. I have a medical background, and he didn't mention, but he was probably told and advised by medical professionals to stop.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt that.
Permanently damaged.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. He didn't mention that because I think, Carl, he's a stand-up guy, and he's saying, look, ultimately this was my decision, Carl, you know what I mean? But what do you make of these talk show hosts and these members of the media that are going after him saying, it's a millennial? I think it is outrageous, and people like that should be fired for saying dumb things like that. I really feel that way.
Yeah, well, number one, they have no idea of what's wrong with him or what his problems are.
Right.
Half of them are they graduate to 6th grade with honors, probably.
Yeah.
That's about as far as it goes with them. But I'm pretty sure Luck was advised, you better stop now, or you're going to be crippled for life.
No, I don't doubt that, Carl. And by the way, I don't doubt that at all, and I appreciate the phone call. I agree with you. The point that we're all trying to make here is that this was his decision. We're not talking about a broken finger. We're not talking about a 21-year-old kid that hasn't suffered injuries before with a broken leg. We're talking about a guy that suffered some really, really serious injuries, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for Doug Gottlieb, the fans that are booing him. This is a guy who did things the right way. Okay, we're not talking about a guy who was doing cockfighting or dog fighting. We're not talking about a guy that's committed crimes or assaults. Andrew Luck's a good dude. Let's 257-5396. Chris, you're next. What's going on?
Nothing much, guys. So when I got the alert yesterday that Andrew Luck was retiring, I was in a state of shock. I was like,
we all were, sure.
What happened? I was completely surprised. But you know what? Even Steve Berline, I guess, was criticizing him as well. I said, you know what? This guy, obviously, he's a smart guy.
Yep.
Okay? I wish him all the best. And I say God bless him and his family. But
sure.
But obviously he knows what's best for him, and if these people don't like it, well, too bad. They don't have to live his life.
I agree, Chris. I agree, Chris, and quite frankly, and I'm sure you would agree with this, the Colts, the fans, they don't deserve him.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah. Chris, good call, my friend. I appreciate you chiming in.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate those kind words. 257-5396. Marge, you're calling in. How are you?
Hey, Marge.
Good morning. So,
good morning.
I was heartbroken when I heard what happened to this poor guy. I mean, he played for 7 years or something like that.
Yep.
He's had massive. I think he almost did he injure a kidney or something.
He's injured a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I heard is that the way it was supposed to go, it wasn't supposed to go that way. They were supposed to have like a formal announcement and everything, and then somebody got wind of it and it broke.
Right.
And then this is the reaction of the fans. But the fans are self-serving because they want a championship and they saw him as a way to championship.
Which and they would have had a decent shot this year. I think they were the number 5 choice. It's nice to talk some sports to start the show, Brian. This is when's the last time we've done this? Maybe 3 months ago?
Well, I got to tell you something, and we'll keep Marge on the line here. I personally believe when a story in the sports world transcends into regular media, whether it's Fox News, CNN, or when it's not necessarily just a sports story, and I believe this is the case, we will always cover it. This is a huge story, make no mistake about it, Marge. And Marge, I don't know how big of an NFL fan you are, but you certainly know a lot about this. Do you watch the NFL on a regular basis?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay, okay. So, The
other thing that I didn't like on Doug Gottlieb's, where he kind of threw the millennials into this.
Yeah.
He said it's the most millennial thing ever. I mean, now he's classified all the millennials like this, and that wasn't right either.
Completely outrageous and ridiculous, Marge. Doug Gottlieb is a one-trick pony, as I've said before. His ratings are not great. He does college basketball. He should stick to college basketball. He was a mediocre college basketball player, point guard, and I think he is a mediocre talk show host, and he's trying to say things just like Wayne Allen Root did, saying things outrageous to try to get ratings with no facts or basis to back up your opinions. I put him. I don't put him as bad as Wayne, but I think what he did this weekend is atrocious, disgusting. Marge, and I think he should be fired. Marge, thank you so much for calling in.
You're welcome.
Always appreciate.
Thanks for the call, Marge.
To hear from you. And when we come back, real quickly, how is this affecting the Vegas sports books? We'll get to that coming back. You're listening to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.
Hey, have you heard that ransomware attacks have increased by 500% this year?
Yeah, cybercriminals are targeting all types of businesses, encrypting their data and holding it hostage unless they pay up.
What if we're their next victim?
Don't worry. We have Barracuda to detect, prevent, and recover from ransomware and other advanced threats.
So we're secured?
Absolutely. We'll pay no ransom and keep this business up and running.
That's a relief.
Protect your business at Barracuda.com. Barracuda, your journey secured.
Liberty Mutual Insurance presents
And Doug.
If I don't find the right car insurance for me, I might just give up.
Did someone just say, if I don't find the right car insurance for me, I might just give up? Ma'am, what if my partner, this wild emu, and I told you that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance, so you only pay for what you need?
I'd say sign me up for Liberty Mutual. And also, your emu is eating my tire.
Limu! No. Only pay for what you need at LibertyMutual.com.
Liberty, liberty, liberty. Liberty, liberty.
Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Equal housing insurer. State laws apply.
This is what parents are saying about Infinity, the Math Institute.
She didn't like school. She really did not like to go to math class. She would be very upset. She wouldn't do her homework. With Infinity Math, she actually listened and wanted to succeed in math.
My kids were already good in math, but now they're excellent.
My husband and me, we are so happy because we see how she is interested in math and that she is always excited to go. We are so glad we made this choice to send her to Infinity.
I like Infinity because it has broadened my children's view on math because Mr. Brookhagen is an awesome teacher.
Math is everywhere. There's no reason why our kids should hate it. Infinity changed that for my kids, and imagine what they can do for you.
Call Infinity, the Math Institute, at 702-768-1777. That's 768-1777. Infinity, the Math Institute. Don't get more math problems, get solutions.
Distracted driving means danger,
recklessness,
irresponsible,
chaos, police,
devastation,
injury,
tears, death. Safe driving means staying alert and staying alive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
The Las Vegas Health and Fitness Chamber, a nonprofit organization, offers many membership benefits to both business and individuals. Reach us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or on the website, VegasHealthFitnessChamber.com.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Coming up at the top of the hour, Seth Moulton will be joining us, former Democratic presidential candidate. Trump went after him. So stay tuned for that. And coming up here in just a few minutes, you're not going to believe what a city council candidate in Michigan said. The racist remarks, you just would not believe it. We'll get to that in a few minutes. I'm going to go back into my anxiety speech. I'll explain what that means coming up here in just a few minutes. But I did mention what this Andrew Luck retirement, what does that mean for sportsbooks? Well, Circa Sports moved the Chargers from -4 to -6 favorites in week 1 against the Colts. Now it's way up to 7.5. CG Technology also had the game at 4. The news broke. They reposted the game at 9.5. Also, if you bet on Andrew Luck to win the MVP, JD, in certain sportsbooks, they are refunding your money. What do you make of all this? I know the over/under on wins for the Colts have changed as well.
Well, I'm not real happy with the way that the sportsbooks are handling it, considering the fact that I had a wager on Zach Greinke to win the NL MVP or the NL Cy Young, and he was traded to the AL, and they didn't honor that, and that was a very unexpected thing. But I think they have a lot of action on this game, and they are giving the money back, but I want that to be consistent between the different situations. And
well, we'll have to get a sportsbook manager to come on because it's certainly a difference when somebody retires before the season starts and somebody gets injured in the middle of the season or traded to, that is different, but that is a legitimate question. And we will certainly get to the bottom of that. But again, if you had the over for wins on the Colts, you are screwed. You are absolutely screwed.
I think it was 10.
You're not getting a refund on that.
9.5 or 10.
Yeah, you're not getting screwed.
And considering how widespread sports betting is right now in 16 new states, there's a lot of money out there on team totals.
No question. All right, so when we come back, a city council candidate in Michigan saying that she doesn't want interracial dating or marriage. She doesn't want any of those people in her community. You're not going to believe it, folks. It's unbelievable there are still people out there in our society. We'll talk about this next. The Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.